The guy on the opposite end is unconvincing to you for some far off criteria that God knows who you have is just a little odd to me. I don't know what your definition of rhetoric is, but you go ahead. Tell me if you want to.
Rhetoric as in like you're able to control conversation, you're persuasive. Your tempo is like really bad, right? Like you speak like 1,000 miles per hour. You're not very clear on like your points. Like I don't know what
That's how, yeah. Yeah, that's where exactly I have my issue with you, because I don't speak fast at all. I'm known for not speaking fast at all, unless you think I'm Apollo, who Apollo was the one speaking at 20,000 miles per hour. So unless you got it confused and had it the other way around, that must not be the case, or we would definitely weren't listening to the same conversation. Because if you can't track what I'm saying talking at that speed, I think that's a little ridiculous.
Yeah, well, I'm just going by what I heard. I mean, I don't know why you're like asking me this, nor is it interesting.
No, it's just weird when somebody makes like little weird like side comments.
Arianus,
like that.
what do you think about Jester saying as I'm an unconvincing debater?
Bro, why are you bro? First off, I'm trying to talk to him. Don't come in. Don't hop in and try to suck on dick, because I'm trying to have a conversation with him, right? Because somebody who's trying to give an opinion on rhetoric, who quite literally conceded within like 30 seconds to T-jump on if he was a moral realist or not is a pretty ridiculous. It's pretty
This guy.
When did I concede to T-jump?
Well, you said you don't think he's a moral realist. He actually the definition for moral realism, or for what being a moral realist is, and you basically concede he meets those definitions.
No,
he meets that criteria.
I asked him. No, what I asked him is given this definition of moral realism that has to do with normativity, are you a moral realist? Right, and he said no. And I said, well, how are you a moral realist if you don't accept normativity? That's what I asked him.
That's in this word we got it confused. That's not the clip I'm in reference to. He says, "What's the definition for normal realism, or what is the definition of being a normal realism?" You give him a definition, and your definition that you give him, you concede he meets those criteria.
No. When did I say that? I said
it's on recording. Wait. I have it on timestamp. Wait, let me see if I could post a clip. Give me 2 seconds. Just give me 2 seconds. I could post a clip. Hold on. Here, 12 to 12:30. Okay, here's a clip. 12:10 to 12:30. Okay, here you go. It's in general. That's a clear concession.
That's not a concession.
So
right?
you want to say?
Okay, did you watch the clip?
Independent moral facts, and obviously, when someone is invoking stance independent moral facts, they're talking about normative facts, right? He doesn't think that there are normative facts, so I don't know why you think that was a concession. He's not a moral realist by the conventions of how the definition is used in the literature. That's for sure.
Give me a sec. I'm clipping something else for you. Wait, let me hear the recording. Hold on.
So Arianus, I think I was spinning when I was calling you a T-jump slayer before. Or rather, I would say that you're a T-jump victim. So you mean your gestures even confirming my hypothesis, bro?
I'm back. I'm turn my OBS. Hold on. I'll turn my OBS for you. Okay, can you repeat what you said?
Yeah, I'm saying when I'm asking him, are you a moral realist in the sense that there are stance-independent moral facts, right?
That's
When
not
he
what you
says
said.
yes, when he
That's
says
not
yes,
what you say in the. And
I asked him
that
if
doesn't
he's
matter.
a moral
Well,
realist.
first
I
off,
asked him if he's
that
a
doesn't
moral
matter.
realist.
Here's
I
the
don't know
thing.
why you keep cutting me off, right?
Well,
Like it's very
in the
obvious.
clip I sent you, like in the clip that I sent you, well,
I don't know why
I
you
feel like
keep
you're just
over-talking.
rambling. I feel like you're just
It's not a
rambling.
ramble, right? The point is,
I just
I
actually
asked him
repeat what you
very
said so I can
clearly.
respond.
I don't know why you're over-talking me. I asked him very
Okay,
clearly,
I'm just rambling.
do
That's
you
fine.
think that, are you a moral realist, right?
Okay.
And then what I mean by moral realist is that there are stance-independent moral facts. He
Okay.
says yes, right? And
Okay.
then I said, well, given like how you're using that term, you're actually not a moral realist, right? Because he treats stance-independent moral facts in a descriptive sense, and I'm obviously treating it in a normative sense, right? So I don't understand like why you think that that's a concession. If like given how I'm using the concept of like a stance-independent moral fact, that's not obviously in line with how T-Jump is using the term. I even agree with T-Jump using the term like that. I don't understand.
Yeah,
like,
and that's
why
my
you think
issue.
that sounds like a
Yeah, but that's
concession.
what I'm saying. You're rambling. Yeah, I heard you before. So my problem here is that
That's
yeah,
not a
he just
ramble.
just the baseline definition and all that T-Jump is trying to get across for being a moral realist is that there are some statements that are just true. They're just fact. It's just concrete. That's all he just takes it to be. Right?
Not
You're saying that you don't think he is. You're saying that you don't think he is because of X and Y reason, but I don't think the X and Y reason or the whatever, not X and Y reason, but I don't think the reason that you're giving is sufficient enough to say that he doesn't meet those criteria for what a moral realist is.
Yeah, look, he can say all he wants that there are stance independently true moral statements, but when I ask what's the term moral denoting there, it's not capturing the normativity behind the term moral. Like under his theory, anything that's moral is just compatible with anything that just happens to occur in the natural world, right? And so given like that view, I don't see how you could even have like a moral fact in the sense that I'm describing it, right? In the sense that like tracks how the convention uses it. He conceded that he didn't have that sort of a theory. So I don't understand like why you thought that that was a concession.
Okay, you're saying that he says that there are what is it? Give me a second. What's up, Autumn? Give me a second while I'm talking to this guy. Yeah, he said he sees it in the descriptive view.
Yeah, he takes a Jacksonian realist view, which is just to say that there are no like moral reasons. There are no reasons to do anything. You ought not do anything. There are no oughts, right? And so under that view, how is that like a moral view when that's just compatible with like anything that you could report about the natural world?
Yeah, so
How is that
yeah,
moral
this
realism?
is my issue. This is my issue. What about that theory says that there aren't any? Well, what about that theory is saying that T-Jump doesn't believe that there aren't any moral facts?
Well, because what's embedded within the concept of a moral fact is that there's a reason that you ought or ought not do something, right? But under T-Jump's view, he's evacuating normativity. He doesn't even hold to normativity, right? And so the question is, like, how is his sort of realism? He doesn't believe in any sort of normativity. Why even call it moral realism? Why not just call it like another form of naturalism, right? If there's no reason to do anything, if he's just like evacuating moral reasons from his theory, how is that a moral view?
Give me a second.
Why don't you explain me that? How is that a moral view?
Give me a second while I read something because I think you rambled a little bit here. Give me a second.
I don't see any rambling. Just ask you a question.
Okay. Repeat what you said one more time for me so I can actually clarify
Yeah,
your argument.
so since he believes that the term moral doesn't have to do with anything normative, right? It's just implied by that theory that there are no reasons to do anything. It's not the case that you ought or ought not do anything, right? So if it's like a purely descriptive view, how is that a moral view, right? Like why not just say that, okay, the way I'm using the term moral just refers to anything in the natural world and that's just it, right? But that's obviously like not tracking what most people mean when they say that they're moral realists, right? Like typically moral realists are saying that you should do something independent of your desires and there is a reason for you to do it. under T-Jump's view, and he did concede later on in the debate, he had like no symmetry breaker between his view and an error theorist, right? Who also doesn't hold to any reasons, like any sort of like normativity whatsoever. So he's the one that conceded, not me.
Okay, so you're saying that T-Jump doesn't believe. Is there any specific reason as to why you do something? He just thinks it's wrong.
He doesn't look when he says it's wrong. He's just describing a natural fact. It's not the case that you ought or ought not impose on someone else's will, right? It's just like a statement about the state of affairs.
Okay, so yeah, even in that sense, he's still a moral realist.
How is
I see
he a
no issue
moral
with that.
realist?
Okay,
if there's
but that's
no reason,
the concession there.
how is no? But I'm asked no. But that's obviously not a concession, right?
It's just a different
I'm
view.
a moral realist. I could say I'm a moral realist,
Okay.
right? I don't take any sort of reasons onto my view, right? So does an error theorist. An error theorist doesn't believe that there are like any irreducible normativity, right?
Yeah, you're just talking. Look.
Yeah. So how is that moral realism then? If he
Yeah,
can't
he meets your criteria.
No, he didn't, right?
Yes, he did. 100% he does.
His view,
Well, you're just trying to you're just trying to ramble. I'm trying to respond to because you're just rambling for so long. I'm trying to respond to what you're trying to say. You set the criteria. It's just a different view. It's just a different. It's just a different view. It's just a different view of it.
I don't know why you're cutting me off, bro.
Well, because you're rambling for so long.
The point is, he doesn't have a way of distinguishing his version of realism with an error theorist. His so-called realism. Like, if he denies that there's like any irreducible normativity, an error theorist can agree with that, right? They could say, well, it's just the case that there are involuntary impositions of will in nature, and that's it. An error theorist can agree that there are involuntary impositions of will in nature. But that's also what T-Jump is saying. So how is T-Jump's view different from an error theorist? How is he even a moral realist, right? Because if you're a moral realist, you have to provide some sort of like distinction from your view and an error theorist, for example. And he doesn't have that.
Okay, but this is my issue at the end of the day. You give him this criteria in the clip. I don't know if you watched the clip because everything that you were talking about was something from outside the clip. Did you watch the clip that I sent you? Because you actually said a pretty concrete, how do I say it? You said a pretty hard criteria for what you think a moral realist is, even if it's not in the normative sense that you're talking about. It's just a different view on it, and from what you're saying, him just giving a different look on it while still meeting that criteria of just saying that there are just some things that just are the case, or they just are wrong. I see no issue with that.
No, but he can't say it. This is what you're not understanding. He can't even say conceptually that they're wrong, right? Because the point is, under his view, he's just saying there are involuntary impositions of will, right? When he says involuntary imposition of will is wrong, all he's saying is an involuntary imposition of will is an involuntary imposition of will. Well, guess what? An error theorist can agree with that shit. If he's a moral realist, he has to find a distinction, a subtle distinction between him and an error theorist, and he can't do that. So he's not meeting the criteria that I set out.
Doesn't he use in the same recording, doesn't he go to and talk about his intuition and talk about his seemings on the regard of this?
You mean like phenomenal conservatism? Like,
yeah, he talks about his seemings. You give a ridiculous analogy. He tells you that I'm going to believe that my seemings are correct until you give a legitimate contradiction to them, and I see zero problem to that.
What do you mean seemings are correct? I asked him how is he justified in believing that seemings are justifiers, and
this is what you do in direct response to this. You give him an analogy. You tell him, oh, wait, let me pull this up right here. You give him a ridiculously garbage analogy. You tell him, which the analogy was just, you're trying to point out or trying to say that what he said was fallacious, which it really isn't. But let me just grab the clip for you.
Unjustified.
Hold on, well, you're saying that your seemings are unjustified? Do you believe that?
No, I'm saying that because he begged the question on his seemings, he wouldn't be justified. Right, because I asked him what justifies your seemings, and he just appealed back to the seemings.
Well, that's a little ridiculous.
How is that a justification? How does that raise?
Well, that's not the context of what's happening. He's saying
No,
that what
it
I
is
see,
concept.
what I see.
Because
He's
if you
saying
watch
what I
that
see.
clip,
I'm gonna believe.
if you watch that clip,
What he's
he
saying, what I see.
explicitly says
Yeah. You're just trying to
doesn't
overtalk me.
care.
He's saying what I'm seeing, I believe until you point out that that's not the case. What's the issue with that?
No. Oh my God, you're so dumb.
He says that word for word.
The point
He says
is,
that word for word.
said-
Get the
he
recording
said,
then.
I asked him, how is your intuition a justifier in believing in moral realism? And how are you even justified in believing that intuitions are justifiers in the first place? And then he said, well, I just take it that
Wait.
it seems to be the
So
case.
wait.
Hold
Give
on,
me a
I'm
question.
not
So you're saying
done.
that
What I
wait? So you just
said was,
conceded to me.
he
Wait.
said-
So he's
he
giving
said-
intuition as a
he said-
justifier. So it's not
no,
error theory. Nice concession. You
he-
just fucking lost. You're so okay. So then
I
what's
don't
the
know
issue?
why you think. Wait, hold on. I don't know why.
So there is a justification.
No, there isn't a justification.
It's his
because
intuition.
He said, yeah, but that's just to reassert phenomenal conservatism. I asked him,
You just
how is
lost.
How is he justified in believing in phenomenal conservatism? And he appeals to the standard, and that's the thing in question.
Okay, but this is the issue. This is what he tells you, but this is the issue that you're having here. He's saying that, from what I'm saying, I think my seemings are correct until you point out a legitimate contradiction in my seemings.
No,
and then you can't respond to that.
I don't need to provide a contradiction. All I'm asking is, how is he justified? And he begged the question, which isn't a justification.
Okay, so if I look at a person who fits the criteria of being a man, and I say they're a man, do you think that's circular?
What do you mean circular? Right. The point is, if he says, I believe, right, that something seems to be the case, and I'm seemingly justified in that, you don't think that he's appealing to phenomenal conservatism in order to justify phenomenal conservatism?
You actually tried.
Wait,
because you bring up because you bring up circularity. You bring up circularity. You verbatim. Your direct response to him. Your direct response to him was circularity. You tried saying your direct response to him was that it was circular. That's what you said. Okay, you're having an issue here. Your direct response in this recording was that it was circular. I can get the clip to you.
Is that what he's doing in that debate? Is that what he's doing?
Okay,
and he says,
that's not okay. You're completely
because I seem to be justified. Is that what he's doing? Yes or no?
Okay. Do you not understand anything that I'm saying at all?
Can you answer the question?
I just explained to you what his perspective is.
Jester, he's asking you if it's
Apollo, shut the fuck up. Apollo, shut.
Bro, he just dodging the point.
Apollo, shut. I'm not dodging the point. He's just trying to run around. I've explained to him clearly what I'm saying, clearly what that position is. Yes, I have multiple times.
You haven't. I
have multiple times. I've explained it multiple times.
What you need to tell me is how he's justified in believing in phenomenal conservatism. Go ahead.
Okay. What did I just tell you? What's my position?
Your position is that you think that there's no issue in T-Jump appealing to his intuition because I didn't present some sort of like defeat or logical or phenomenal otherwise against his view. And so if you go back to that clip, I explicitly asked him, how are you justified in believing in phenomenal conservatism? And this guy literally appeals to the same standard in order to quote unquote justify. He says, I think my seemings are correct until you point out a contradiction in them. What do you think? First of all, seemings can be correct. Seemings are like phenomenal states, and phenomenal states aren't like proposition. There's just representations of things. So I don't know why you sort of agreed with him on that. The second point is he very explicitly said that I don't care if I beg the question, which just means that he doesn't have a probability raising justification for believing in phenomenal conservatism.
Repeat the last part. You got muffled there.
Do you agree he doesn't have a justification?
He 100% has a justification in that.
How so? How does begging the question for anything raise the probability of you being correct?
Yeah, and exactly how is he begging the question there?
He's appealing to phenomenal conservatism in order to justify phenomenal conservatism. Are you stupid? He's saying, it seems to be the case that I'm justified in believing in my seemings, appealing to the standard of phenomenal conservatism in order to affirm it. How is that not? Do you understand what begging the question is?
100%. Here, I'm gonna get something for
Okay,
you
what is it?
because you're completely confused in how that exchange goes in that clip. I'm gonna grab it for you right now to show you how much of an idiot you're being. Yeah. You're actually like big
okay,
brain.
great.
You're big brain. You're
But,
big
but
brain.
you didn't answer anything. I asked you.
Yeah, because you're asking questions that are irrelevant to my
begging the
position.
question?
You're asking questions that are relevant to my position. You're not saying shit to me. Like that's
So
what I'm saying.
he begged the question.
I'm gonna grab the clip for you.
Begged the question, and he
Here. Stay quiet for 2 seconds. Yeah, no, it is. You're gonna see. I'm gonna grab it. I'm gonna grab the clip for you. I'm gonna grab the clip for you. I'm gonna grab the clip for you. Wait, I'm gonna grab the clip for you. Stay quiet for 2 seconds. I'm gonna grab the clip for you, and then we're gonna talk about this exchange right here. I'm gonna click.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Here it is. Okay. You tell them that you believe. Hello, are you here? Hello?
Yeah.
Okay. You tell them this word for word on the recording around 47, like 47, 45-ish until like 48, 23. You give this analogy in response to T-Jump. You tell them that you believe that, where it is. You believe that phenomenal conservatism is true because a lot of philosophers think it's true, as in response to what T-Jump told you. All T-Jump is trying to tell you, but you just can't understand it in your sick brain, is that when he sees something, right, he could rationalize what he sees and then he'll come to some type of conclusion as to what that is until you point out otherwise. How do you not understand what he's trying to explain to you?
If you look back in the video, I asked him, what's the justification for phenomenal conservatism? He, number one, said, I'm appealing to what the experts in the field have to say about phenomenal conservatism and how I'm justified. And then when a question comes back again, I ask him, how are your seemings justified? And he appeals back to the standard.
We must have like a different definition as to what do you think phenomenal conservatism is?
Hold on a second.
What do you think phenomenal conservatism is?
To try to justify when he knows that begging the question does not raise the probability of that belief. And given how we understand,
he's not question begging at all. You're so confused.
Yes, he is. Yes, tell me how.
Okay, what do you think phenomenal? What do you think it is?
He appeals. Hold on a second. If he appeals to the epistemic standard in order to justify the epistemic standard, how is that not a form of circularity?
What is it? What is phenomenal conservatism? Could you define it for me?
The belief that seemings serve as justifiers in the absence of a defeater, that someone is prima facie justified in believing in a proposition if it seems to be the case and there's no defeater for it.
Okay, and what's your issue with that?
Right, and my issue with that is that I only asked them the question, what justifies that position? And he's appealing to the same method of justification, which is prima facie seemings in order to justify it. That's not an actual
Yeah,
justification.
you're ridiculous.
Given how we
All the
understand
you're trying to point out you're trying to point out on how that position is incorrect.
justification requires an inference, right? The justification is, in this case, for the view, is going to require an inference. You can be a phenomenal
The view
conservative.
justifies itself. Do you not understand how the view justifies itself?
You can be a phenomenal conservative and appeal to an inference in order to justify that intuition. But he didn't do that. He didn't give an inference. All he did was appeal back to the same thing that was in question.
He's saying phenomenal conservatism justifies itself. I 100% agree with that. That's not circular.
Yes. Oh my God. If he's appealing to the standard, right, to justify it, that's a way of begging.
You're asking him, what's your justification in believing what you see?
I mean,
that's ridiculous. You're asking him what's your justification in believing what you see.
How do you take justification to be? What is your
okay?
method?
If I look at you and I tell you have green hair, what do you think? What do you think my justification for saying you have green hair is? And do you think you're stupid or some shit?
Justification to be? Answer a question. What do you take justification to be?
Are you serious? Repeat back to me what I just said.
It's a legitimate question. What do you take justification to be?
Repeat back to me my question, please.
Do you think justification requires an inference? Yes or no?
Okay.
Do you think justification requires an inference? Yes or no?
Okay.
Do you think that T-jump, in order to be justified in saying, I have justification that my seemings in this instance are justified, do you think that he needs to appeal to some inference? That he needs to give an inference for that belief? Or do you think he could just give another intuition?
Okay. Here's what answers that right here. If I look at your hair and I tell you, and your hair is green, and I look at your hair and tell you your hair is green, how do I deduce that your hair is green?
Deduce that your hair is green. You could look at several things about my hair. You could look at the properties of my hair. You could observe all types of shit. You don't think that I could create a modus ponens argument for why my hair looks a certain way? Like what? That's
exactly what I'm saying.
The whole point is that he never gave that sort of an inference, so it's hard to see how he's even justified.
No, but that's what he's saying. All he's saying is that what I see is true unless you point out otherwise. That's all he's saying.
To affirm,
and that justifies itself. That justifies itself. That's self-justificatory.
To affirm the position. That's the position in question. How is he prima facie justified without just appealing back to an intuition? That's the question on the table.
Okay. What you're saying is making no sense. I'm asking you, before you even ask me that, I'm asking you, how is that not self-justificatory?
Right. I'm asking you, how is it the case that he's justified in believing in phenomenal conservatism if he provided no inference for that belief, just another intuition?
He's saying it justifies itself. He's saying it justifies itself. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, there's zero issue.
Right? How is he justified?
What do you mean? Who cares? That's a legitimate argument. That's a legitimate argument. I just told you how. I just explained to you how phenomenal conservatism works. I just explained to you how phenomenal conservatism works, and he tells you it's self-justificatory, which it is, and you don't give a real response to it. You don't give a. It's not question bearing. It is self-justificatory. You went into a whole thing about vicious circularity. You went into a whole point about vicious circularity that made zero fucking sense. You're not making a real argument. You're not making a real argument. You literally fucking suck. You've conceded him 3 times in this debate.
He has an intuition of an intuition. Okay, great. What is that?
That's saying I see something. I see this thing that I see is correct until you point out otherwise. That's what he said.
Why? Yeah, but that's the standard in question. I'm questioning that standard. Why does he hold to that standard? What sort of increases the probability that that standard is true? No one cares if he says that he's justified because he has that seeming, right?
Okay, do you not think things are themselves?
That's the standard in question.
Okay,
so
do you not think, okay,
how
do you make inferences?
What I want you to do is
how do you make an inference? You're a retard. How do you make an inference? How do you make an inference? How do you make an inference?
I don't know. You tell me.
By what? By what? By what? By sight, right? You make an inference by sight. You make an inference by. You make an inference by sight. You make an inference by sight.
Do tell me how he provides justification for phenomenal conservatism. Go ahead.
Okay. He tells me it justifies itself. If you read the definition for it, yes, it does. I just explained to you how it justifies itself.
What does it even mean for something to be self-justified? Look, the whole point is, what's the inference that he's drawing between his seeming and the belief in phenomenal conservatism?
Okay. This is my issue that you're having here. You're being hyper skeptic. Do you not? Okay, are you trying to point out that there's something may possibly? Are you trying to? Here, I'm asking you something. Are you saying that there's something wrong and there's something possibly wrong with my site? Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're alluding to?
Look, you don't understand skepticism.
You're confused. I know what skepticism is.
Wait, hold on.
You can even pronounce the fucking word. Keep trying again. Yeah, very funny, hilarious, right? You try the same shit.
Hold on a second, cocksucker. What T-Jump is
you literally sound like you have a penis up your butt. Hilarious, by the way.
He needs an intuition in order to justify an intuition, right? And I'm saying, why is that standard correct? He just appeals back to the standard. What the hell, right?
Whoa, that's okay. What did it? Wait. That's not okay. Yeah, this is my issue. What's my argument?
Back to the view.
Okay, I'm gonna come back to the same analogy. If I look at your hair. Right? If I look at your hair and it's the color green, and I say your hair is the color green, I'm analyzing it. I'm analyzing it. You really did it.
Why is that standard itself justified? Because the skeptic.
Okay, but the proposition, the proposition is it could be wrong. He's open to. That's the point. That's the
skeptic is going to say that the empirical content between his seeming and the world he's deluded about his seemings are empirically equivalent, right? So how does he have a posteriori justification?
But that's the whole thing. He's saying that he's open to it being possibly wrong. He's open to it being possibly wrong.
If he can't discern between the
he's
world,
open to it being possibly wrong. As he said, provide a contradiction. You're so dumb. You're horrible. You're horrible.
Between Cartesian skepticism and where his seeming.
Can you kick him, please? Can you kick him, please? But yeah, I didn't hear you. Somebody ear raped me. But yeah, that's all T-Jump's position is saying. He's saying that I'm looking at. He's saying I'm looking at something. This is what he's saying. This is what he's saying. But this is what I'm saying. He's looking at something. And he's like, I'm looking at this. I'm saying that this is the case. I'm open. Listen, stop. Okay, don't overtalk me. Let me actually finish my argument before you interrupt me and try to loudmic me. You fucking retard. You're literally retarded. Don't try to overtalk me and loudmic me.
Would you guys like to moderate?
Don't overtalk me and
moderator.
Don't overtalk me and loudmic me. Don't overtalk me and loudmic me because you're getting upset and mad. Don't overtalk me and loudmic me because you're getting upset and mad. All T-Jump is saying, you fucking monkey brain, is that he's open to something being possibly wrong, but he wants you to provide the contradiction in his view.
That's just to affirm phenomenal conservatism. What's the argument for phenomenal conservatism?
That's what it is.
What is
that's what it is. That's what it is. That's what it is. At its most fundamental level, that's what it is.
Justification for it. Go ahead.
It's self-justificatory within itself.
Self-justificatory. How is it self-justificatory?
Okay. If I look at something that green and say it's green, and why am I wrong?
That's burden shifting, right? You're the one that needs to provide the claim. You're justified in the position.
I just asked you a question that would explain how it's self-justificatory. If I look at something and say it is what it is, why would I be wrong in saying that so without a real contradiction? You just conceded. You're stupid.
I didn't concede shit. I'm just asking.
You're stupid as fuck. You just don't want to answer the correct questions. They're putting in holes in your dumb ass fucking skepticism. Your skepticism is fucking retarded. You got fucking slammed. Like, it's ridiculous. If I say something is self-justificatory, right? The thing I'm saying is self-justificatory. Am I not justified in saying something is what it is?
You understand what it means?
Am I justified in saying something is what it is?
You have an inference for it. What is the inference for the view? What is the inference for the view?
How do you think we infer something is what it is?
Answer. How is it justified by an inference? Because by just appealing to your prima facie seemings, that's just to repeat the thing in question.
He's appealing to your site.
It's appealing to your site, yeah, but why is the prima facie justified if he has no inference for it? Go ahead.
Are you saying the site is wrong? Are you saying your site could possibly be wrong?
The site is wrong. I didn't say that the representation.
Then you have no real fucking argument.
Can be wrong. A mental representation. I don't know why.
Yes, it could be wrong. The position covers that. The position covers that. It covers that. It's saying he is saying that it could be wrong. He is saying unless you're saying he is saying that his site could be wrong. He is saying that his site could be wrong.
Look, isn't really relevant, right? The point is, he just repeated the same thing when I asked him, what's the justification for PC? He literally just offered the position back to me, right?
Okay, and there's no problem with that. You're just
That
repeating
was
yourself.
the thing in question. Okay, so if someone comes to me and
Are you
says,
okay,
I believe that in order to be justified, I need an inference for the view. And then you ask me, okay, what's the justification for that? And then I just like repeat that, well, justification requires inferences. Have I said anything informative
You
to you?
completely strawman the position. He tells you, no, you completely strawman him. Yeah, that's a strawman. That's a strawman.
No, it's not a strawman.
That is a strawman. I'm
not
gonna
a
explain
strawman.
why. That is, let me speak. I'm gonna explain why. Stop over talking me. Let me speak. I'm gonna explain why. Yes, him reiterating the position is not saying. That's not question begging because the position covers the inference. The position covers the inference. It tells you that you literally concede that the inference is sight.
It's not a concession.
You concede that the inference is sight. That's a concession. That's concession number 2. That's concession number 2. You concede the inference is sight. You concede the inference is sight. You said the inference. Okay, is the inference sight? Is the inference sight? Is the inference sight? Is not begging the question. Is the inference sight? Yes or no?
You conceded to me that he was begging the question.
You're retarded. I'm telling you, it's self-justificatory. Why is it self-justificatory? You don't provide an inference. I told you the inference is sight. You concede the inference is sight. You're literally fucking retarded. Anybody that thinks this guy is winning is sucking his cock. You're dumb.
I think he's winning
You're
for sure. You have
dumb
not
as
answered this
fuck.
question.
You're dumb as fuck. You're dumb as fuck.
Alright, chill.
Jester, you have not
You're
answered his objection.
Are we gonna have a dialogue?
Jester, try to keep back and forth.
Yeah.
Villain, do you want to clarify what he's saying or like what? Because Jester's not getting it.
We could moderate it because he
No,
wants to
I'm
keep
good.
over talking me like a retard. If you want to moderate
Alright, y'all want to go 1 minute at a time?
Sure, but I'm just like wanting for you to answer this, right? How is he justified by begging the question? Go ahead.
Okay. First off, he's presupposing he's begging a question. He's not begging the question. Okay.
If he reiterates
this is what I'm saying. This is what we're saying.
If y'all are gonna do clocks, like y'all gotta take turns.
Okay. Give what you're saying now. We're gonna get a minute to explain what you're saying. I'm gonna get a minute explaining what I'm saying.
Right. So when I ask him in that video verbatim, right, what's the justification for your seemings? And he appeals back to phenomenal conservatism as a justification for the seemings. He's just reiterating that position that he's justified in his seemings because he's justified in his seemings, right? It's not adding anything new that sort of raises the probability for the theory being correct, right? And so given the fact that he's reiterating the position, I don't see how he's justified if it's not probability raising, right? I mean, unless if you take begging the question to be something else, right? That doesn't have to do with a reiteration of a claim when asked for justification of that claim.
Okay, you done?
Yeah.
Okay. I like to point out you're presupposing it's begging a question. It's not begging the question. When he reiterates the same thing, he's just saying that this thing is self-justificatory. You're saying that it's just missing an inference and he's just repeating the same thing over. It is an inference. The inference that he gives is his sight because that's what the position covers. Phenomenal conservatism is just saying, if I see something and it is what it is, I'm going to say it. This is what it is based on what I see. If you're just pointing out that it's possibly incorrect, that's no problem. That's what the position covers. All he's trying to tell you is that this is probably the case because my eyes are telling me what they're telling me. If you're saying that I could possibly be wrong, it covers that as well because TJM says, I'm waiting for you to provide a contradiction in my view. That's all he's trying to say.
Which is the standard in question, which is the thing which I asked him for justification for. And reiterating, I didn't presuppose shit. Presupposing requires I'm assuming that he's doing it. He verbatim said in the debate he is begging the question and that he doesn't care. Right?
No,
so I don't know why.
Show me in the recording where he says that.
By his standards, you can go back to the video. I asked him, so you're just begging the question for his seemings, and he said, I don't care. That's what he verbatim says. So you were wrong on that point.
He doesn't. That's not how they exchange it.
Yeah, you could go watch that video that
I just watched it. That's not how
he says it. In that video, I asked him, what's the justification for his seemings? He appeals back to the standard, which is what begging the question is in this context epistemically. So you're wrong. The second point is, how is the sight look, the sight is some sort of phenomenal experience that he has, some direct acquaintance. But he's not saying that he has an inference for it. So he's not meeting my standards of justification when I'm asking him for an inference, right? He's just literally verbatim
wrap it up.
The position. He's repeating the position that he just appears, this appearance sort of gives him
Alright.
justification.
All right, I'm at overtime. Back to Jester.
Okay.
So that wasn't working.
Again, he's presupposing that there's no inference. I told him the inference is sight. By definition, inference is a conclusion reached on the basis of evidence or reasoning. I could, through my sight, give some sort of reasoning and evidence that your hair is green because you dyed your hair green and the follicles in your hair are green. You concede that he is using sight within phenomenal conservatism, which is the inference lead to these conclusions. All his position is saying is that show me a contradiction in my view, and he's open to be possibly wrong. You're again presupposing it's question begging, not really responding to anything I'm saying. It's not,
20 seconds left.
Yeah. Him reiterating again is justificatory in itself because all he's telling you is that I'm looking at something, I'm pointing out details of it, and I'm coming to a conclusion as to what it is. If it's wrong, tell me why it's wrong. That's what it means. Can you directly respond to that? If not, you just fucking lost.
Okie doke.
Yeah, okay, great. So number one, the phenomenal conservative isn't asking. So first of all, when they say that they have a sight of it, they're just saying that they're directly acquainted with the state of affairs. He didn't provide an inference, so I don't know where you got that from. Second of all, when he says that I am, and you sort of conceded that he was reiterating just now, that he was reiterating the position, but sort of he's self-justified. Well, that's what I mean by begging the question. What I mean by begging the question is that he's reiterating the position that's in dispute, right? That he never provided justification for. And when pressed on it, he just conceded that he was begging the question, which you denied. In that video, he does explicitly
20 seconds.
the question. The second part is, how is begging the question a form of self-justification? If we understand justification to be probability raising, it doesn't make sense to say that something that raises the probability of a proposition being
5
true
seconds.
is justified by itself.
Okay.
Just
Yeah, he says my definition of begging the question. When I think of begging the question, is I'm going to just read out the word for word definition, right? Begging the question, assuming the conclusion, or assuming something's conclusion. He's not assuming any conclusion. He's just telling you that this thing, you point out some contradiction in this thing. He's telling you that what I'm seeing, and he points out the natures of what he's seeing, sight. He draws the inference from sight. When you see something, right, you point out the features in it and then come to a conclusion through your sight. That in itself isn't question begging. And when he refers back, okay, you're not going to interrupt me in a minute. And so when he refers back to it, when he tells you, when you're like, is phenomenal conservatism correct? And he's like, or when you say, or you put phenomenal conservatism in question, gives you the position basically. I've explained the position to you. And again, not pointed out any real contradiction in the position. And again, you're presupposing it's question begging. It's not question begging.
Yeah, so you just repeated exactly the same thing that I just refuted like a minute ago. So the whole point is he's reiterating the view, right? In terms of just direct acquaintance and he has an experience, and that sort of serves as a justification. He can say that, and he can also say that I need to provide a defeater for it. But that's the thing in question. And so let's go with the definition of begging the question that you gave. Okay, assuming the conclusion. His conclusion is, in that video, phenomenal conservatism is true, right? If phenomenal conservatism is true, right, then I'm justified in my seemings. Phenomenal conservatism is true, therefore I'm justified in my seemings. Okay, great. How does he justify the second premise when it's just another way of restating that conclusion, right? Which is that he's justified in his seemings, right? As long as he sort of doesn't have a defeater for it, right? That's literally the definition of begging the question. If you have that as a premise, and the premise is equivalent to the conclusion, semantically, that's begging the question.
Yeah, I've broken down why he basically reaffirms phenomenal conservatism because in itself, in its definition, justifies itself. So when he reaffirms the definition, what the definition is saying, and him doing that is basically my sight leads to these conclusions through what I see. If it's incorrect, please provide a contradiction. That's the position. And so him laying that out and him saying that that is true, that is correct, you have not provided any single contradiction to it, except that it's question begging when it in itself is not question begging. All he's saying is that I see this thing, I'm going to say this thing is this thing, unless you provide otherwise. That is not question begging. So him reaffirming that
great,
is not question
great.
begging.
So
You
you-
fucking idiot. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So you didn't track anything that I said at all, right? And you just literally just verbatim conceded that he was reaffirming the position, right? So when I said that by reaffirming the position in question, he's question begging, right? I don't know why then you then said, well, you're just presupposing that he's begging the question. No, he just literally admitted in the video that he was begging the question. So there wasn't really any presupposition there. The second part is he's sort of admitting to himself that the only thing that serves as a justification for phenomenal conservatism, right? Not the site example, not anything else, just the method in which he tries to justify things is the thing that I'm questioning in the debate, right? And so if you think that reaffirming the position self-justifies the position, well, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, either you're just going to bite the bullet that for anything
10
that I beg,
seconds.
for anything that I beg the question on, it's just going to be self-justificatory, right? I could beg the question on anything, and that's just going to be self-justified. That's the bullet that you have to bite if you're saying this about T-Jump and his phenomenal
I'm
conservatism.
done.
Okay. Again, this guy's completely lost in the sauce. All T-Jump is saying, and he agrees with my definition of begging a question, which is assuming the conclusion of something. You put into question phenomenal conservatism, he lays out to you, he reaffirms phenomenal conservatism, which in this case is not begging the question, because what phenomenal conservatism is just saying that through my sight, I could point out these features of something and come to the conclusion that this is what it is. So unless you're saying that that in itself is begging the question, or there's a problem within that, there's no issue with that. So him reaffirming it in this case is not question begging, because he just explained the position and you pointed out no contradiction within its view. So you're just a fucking idiot. Go ahead.
Phenomenal conservatism is true, then I'm justified in my seemings. Phenomenal conservatism.
You
Cut out.
This nigga just disappeared? Nigga vanished.
Justified in my seemings. Phenomenal.
You Arianus, you cut out for a moment, so yeah, that gotta have to repeat everything. Someone kick him from the call, make him rejoin.
What about now?
This nigga Wi-Fi boo boo.
Yeah, it's good now. It's good.
Yeah, so if T-Jump gives the argument, if phenomenal conservatism is true, then I'm justified in my seemings. Phenomenal conservatism is true, therefore I'm justified in my seemings. Do you think that argument is question begging?
Well, you strawmanned it when he reaffirms
No,
phenomenal.
no, I
Don't let
didn't.
me respond.
No,
Let me
I
respond.
didn't.
Yes, you did. You
That's
said you're presupposing that's what he's trying to say.
View.
You're completely
You just said
leaving
that
out an entire
you-
portion of it. Okay, are we still gonna do the 1 minute for 1 minute? Because if you can ask me a question and I don't get to respond to it, you're just
Okay,
a fucking
great.
spur. Okay, perfect. You want to just keep fucking spurking? You want to just keep letting me overtalk? You want to overtalk, and we could sit here for the next half an hour while I just overtalk you with my louder mic? Because you're on a fucking phone, you're on a fucking Android, right? So what do you want to do? You want to talk back and forth, or you just want to keep spurking?
Damn.
Okay, great. So respond to what I said.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to respond to what you say. You're completely leaving out the context of what, and I want you to respond to this directly. When I'm saying he reaffirms phenomenal conservatism, it's in reference to his sight, which is the inference, and his sight is leading him to the conclusion that these things are the case. How is him reaffirming that question, Megan?
His site, first of all, his site isn't an inference. He explicitly says the site is a direct acquaintance. A direct acquaintance isn't an inference. Like, I could say I have a direct acquaintance of a chair, but there's not going to be an inference for that side of a chair. So I don't know why you keep saying that that was an inference. The second part is that is a question begging argument that he gave, because the second premise, phenomenal conservatism is true, is just a reiteration of the view that he's justified in his seemings. So he is begging the question, and he is reaffirming the position in the conclusion.
Yeah, okay. Again, you're just trying to point out, unless you're trying to point out that his seemings could possibly be incorrect, which phenomenal conservatism covers, you're getting absolutely nowhere, unless that's what you're trying to do.
Why do I need to do that, right? All I need to do is ask him to provide an argument. He gives an argument where the second premise is equivalent to the conclusion. It's a question-begging argument. And how I'm understanding question-begging, he's not justified. Because
The argument is self-explanatory.
Question-begging arguments don't raise the probability.
You're still presupposing it's question. Okay, we could go to conclusion.
What do you mean presuppose, right? You just agreed that he reaffirmed the position.
Yeah, but I've explained to you how contextually that's not question-begging in this case.
You agree that he's begging the question, right? You just said, yeah.
That's not
begging the question. That he reaffirmed the position. You just verbatim said...
Do you want to go to conclusions, or do you have a...
What do you think begging the question is?
Assuming the conclusion of something.
What do you mean? He's the one assuming it, right? Because P2 is equivalent to the conclusion.
Okay. Can you repeat back to me why I said it's not question begging? Because you're just not listening. You're not responding to me at all.
Yeah, because you said that I'm presupposing that he's begging the question because all that he needs, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's just appealing to his sight. His sight serves as an inference in the belief that he's justified in believing in phenomenal conservatism. And I said, no, the sight is a direct acquaintance.
That's not my argument.
Right?
You said his sight.
And the second part, hold on a second.
Okay,
I gave you time to speak. And then the second part is, gives that argument, right? If phenomenal conservatism is true, then I'm justified in my seemings. Phenomenal conservatism is true, then I'm justified in my seemings. P2 is equivalent to the conclusion. It's just a restatement of the conclusion in different words, which is what begging the question means. So what about what I'm saying presupposes that he's begging the question?
Okay, you done? Perfect.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I'm going to respond to two things that you told me. You said it was a direct acquaintance, not an inference, and I've skimmed the recording multiple times. He definitely means that it's an inference. It could, from what your definition of direct acquaintance, it could probably be both. I have no issue with that, right? Because to infer that something is the case, you have to do it through this site. Due to this belief, the problem that you're having here and still saying that it's question begging, and I've pointed out multiple times, but I feel like you just keep not responding to him. When you put into question phenomenal conservatism, right? And he basically reaffirms it by telling you his site is justified. What the position is telling you is that you could justify site through these means. Are you putting into question the way you justify something is something through site? Is that what you're saying? If
no,
that's not what you're saying,
question, right?
Okay, then it's not begging the question, you fucking retard.
First of all, no, begging the question.
If you're not putting that into question, you're not. It's not. If you're not putting that into question, it's not question begging.
No,
he's not.
By your definition of question begging, assuming the conclusion, if he's saying if phenomenal conservatism is true, then I'm justified in my seemings. Phenomenal conservatism is true, therefore I'm justified in my seemings. P2 is a restatement of the conclusion. Do you agree with that?
Okay. You're completely misrepresenting the position. Do you want me to explain to you how? You just misrepresented it. You just misrepresented it. You just misrepresented it.
It's not a misrepresentation, right? That's the position. You just said that he's reaffirming the view by offering the same standard that's required under the view to be for it to be quote unquote directly acquainted.
Are you putting the site into question?
Not putting the look. I'm just asking
if you're not, then
how
it's not
you're justified begging. In the view, right? I'm asking, for example, is saying that phenomenal conservatism is true, then I'm justified in my seemings.
But the way the exchange goes,
hold on.
The way the exchange goes. Okay, go ahead. Talk. I'm gonna explain it to you. Go ahead and explain. You're not saying shit. Because if you're not questioning the site, then it's not question begging.
You guys are repeating yourself.
Is he gone?
Yeah, that nigga was
He'll be
mad.
back.
You know what I'm saying? I would never let that shit happen to me, though. You feel me? Shit crazy. Yo, Paulo, I ain't cooking you in the chat. Yo, Paulo, they cooking you in the chat. Me personally, though. You feel me? Oh, I never let a nigga talk about my Wi-Fi. Doesn't mean that. Oh my god.
Fuck.
Like, it's not hard to like understand. That's why I'm asking him. Is he saying that you're looking at what you're looking at because you're looking at what you're looking at? That's what I'm asking him. Do you think? Are you saying that that part of it is question begging? And he's saying no. Oh, shut the, okay, if he's saying something else, then it's not question begging. Then that's all of that.
No, it is, because basically, assuming that Siemens are justified is embedded within the concept of phenomenal conservatism. So if someone wants to say that phenomenal conservatism is true, in virtue of the fact that we're justified in Siemens, and that's just simply restating the conclusion, right? That's assuming that we're justified in our Siemens, which is the very concept of what phenomenal conservatism is.
He's like, why is phenomenal conservatism true? He reaffirms phenomenal conservatism, which in result is basically, why is phenomenal conservatism true? Because from what I see, this is true. Oh, he's back. Perfect. Okay. You ready to answer your question?
Can you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you never actually answered what I said about that. Right? If T-Jump appeals to his site, right, as a justification for why he sort of is seeing a TV in front of him, and in the argument, he is saying, if this standard of phenomenal conservatism is true, then he's justified in his seemings. Phenomenal conservatism is true, therefore he's justified in his seemings. He's just reiterating the thing in question which needs to be justified, which is the claim that he's justified in his seemings, right? Just by appealing to the standard of phenomenal conservatism, which I pressed him on several times, isn't serving as a justification for the conclusion.
Okay.
I mean,
no, it is. It is 100%.
Reaffirming the view. You said
I'm gonna give you a minute to talk, and I'm gonna respond. Okay, Venom, you give him a second.
Wait,
to
what's
talk.
that?
You're not letting me speak, or you're gonna interrupt me. Okay, if he's done fucking talking, the only way the exchange went, I'm sorry, I'm eating something. Give me a second, I'm gonna mute for a second. I'm back. I was eating a cookie, but okay. So you are saying that him, reaffirming that his seemings are correct is question begging. Is that what you're saying? You're saying that there's no way
by reaffirming the claim that phenomenal conservatism is true. That's just a restatement of the claim that he's justified in his intuitions.
Okay. So if what it's all saying is that I could see something, and due to the features I could see through my sight, unless you're putting into question if sight is even correct or not. Is that what you're putting into question?
I don't know why. The question is not whether his sight is correct. The question is whether or not his sight is justified, right? And when I asked him, how is your sight of the TV justified? He's appealing back to the same method of prima facie justification, which is just to reaffirm the thesis of phenomenal conservatism, which is that in order to be justified in something, you need to have like a prima facie justification for it through your seemings, in absence of a defeater. Okay, like what is that justification for the sight, rather than just appealing back to the theory, back to the epistemic theory?
Yeah, but this is where you're completely incorrect. If you're conceding within that he could, okay. If there is a TV in the room, and he's saying that there is a TV in the room through his sight is what is allowing him to justify that there is a TV in the room, but you're putting it into question whether that's a valid inference or not. You're putting into question whether he could actually see something or not, whether it's actually there. Is that what you're saying?
He doesn't. No.
Okay, so that's not what you're saying.
What I'm saying is, how does he justify the claim that the seemings of the TV serve as a justification of the TV actually being there? And so when he says, well, I just
explained it to you.
If he has the seeming of the TV, that's just to reiterate the position, right? If I ask you, what is the justification for PC? You appeal back to PC. That's what epistemic circularity is. So either you don't know what epistemic circularity is, or T-Jump is just wrong in thinking that his seemings are justified. Which one is it?
There's sight, and then there's how do you reach the conclusions through sight. If you can't understand that, then you're generally a person that can't function in humanity. Do you want to go to conclusions?
A conclusion for the sight. There is no conclusion. He just has a direct acquaintance. I don't know. The conclusion is drawn through an inference. He verbatim says he doesn't have an inference. All he says, I have a direct acquaintance of this shit in front of me. Okay, great. Now, how do you justify? How do you know that you have a direct acquaintance? Well, guess what? He just appeals back to that direct acquaintance. He's saying
he is making an inference that it's there through his sight, even if What do you?
Yeah, but that's not an direct acquaintance. You don't understand the difference between a direct acquaintance and an inference.
Go ahead and give it to me.
Okay, a direct acquaintance is a phenomenal acquaintance of the proposition in question, where he's sort of saying, I am justified in X if I'm experiencing X. Okay, great. That's just the claim in question, right? When I ask him, what justifies him having the belief that he's having that phenomenal experience, guess what he did? He appealed back to the phenomenal experience. That is just circular.
Yeah, and this is where you're a fucking retard. He's saying that he sees this thing.
What?
This is what I was saying earlier. You're basically saying that him seeing the TV, it's possible that he does not seeing the TV and he's not having this experience, and this is not true. That's basically what you're implying within that position. What I'm saying, if from what I'm saying is that if that's what you're implying, all that the position is saying is that through what I'm seeing, this is the case, unless you provide a contradiction. And so what that's saying is that this is probably true. So you just putting forth some type of possibility is ridiculous. That's why.
Are you reaffirming the standard of phenomenal conservatism in what you just said?
Okay, if I say my sight is right, and you ask me why is my sight right, and I break down why it's right.
Answer the question. Are you reaffirming PC when you said that?
Okay, are you dumb?
Are you reaffirming? Yeah, answer the question.
You ask him. Okay, you ask him, and this is how it goes. You put phenomenal conservatism into question, yes?
Yeah, I'm asking for
justification. Then he tells you phenomenal. And he just tells you phenomenal conservatism, which in itself just means that I'm looking at this, and so I draw a conclusion as to what this is through what I see.
Right. And that's the reiteration of the standard, and that's the reiteration of the epistemic standard that I'm questioning, that I want justification for. Right? He could say all he wants.
Okay, we're getting somewhere.
I have a sight of a TV, and I'm justified in believing that I have the sight of a TV. Okay, how do you justify that sight without reappealing back to the position in question, which is PC? I mean, you just conceded that he's begging.
Ready. Everybody listen to this. Okay. Do you believe or what you're affirming is that his sight is possibly wrong?
His sight. I'm not making a modal claim. I'm not even saying that.
If you're not saying that, then you lose that exchange.
Wrong. I'm just saying I don't know why you're bringing in modal standards.
Okay. If you're not saying that, then you just lost.
I'm not just saying possibility here. I'm asking you, how is he able to justify the claim that he has a sight of a TV? Right, the belief that his seemings are justified without appealing back to phenomenal conservatism. Go ahead.
Okay, all phenomenal conservatism is a well wrought out explanation as to me drawing a conclusion of seeing this TV. If you're putting into question whether he's seeing the TV or not, then all you're running is just baseless fucking skepticism. That's all that is.
That's it. That's, again, assuming that PC is the standard that I have to abide by, assuming that PC is the standard that I have to abide by in that dialectic. When I repeatedly asked him for justification, and he's just assuming that his seemings are justified. I don't understand, what's so hard for you to comprehend.
Okay. First off, don't jump me. Yeah. This is what I'm going to say about that. It's self-justificatory and it's not begging the question because because all he's telling you, you're like, why is this the case? He's like, this is the case because I could see it, then you're like, why can you see it? But you're telling me you're not putting into question whether he could see it or not, and you don't think you're a fucking retard?
No, I'm asking him, why is he justified in holding to the standard of PC in order to make the claim that he has the sight of that TV, right? Why is he justified in holding to PC? You just keep saying, I had to provide the defeater that his sight isn't correct, whatever the fuck you just said.
Yes, you do.
That doesn't matter to the fucking look. What matters is
You're
that
dumb.
he gives a justification. What matters is that he gives a justification for that standard that doesn't rely upon that standard, right? He did that. That's epistemic circularity.
Okay. And you were trying to draw something about you made a Darth Dawkins analogy, but I didn't want to talk about why you're fucking stupid there. But and let me break it down for you. Yeah, I do. What was I gonna say?
These niggas go, they got quiet. Yo.
Shut up, nigga.
What's good, guys? It's your boy D1, and I'm back here with another video. As you can see from...
You're talking to D1 again.
Turn that bitch ass nigga off.
Mirror's a faggot, so I'ma let him have it.
Pull his dreadlocks off his head and make him like a bold Martian alien.
Okay, I'm back.
Yo, shut up, nigga.
A whole bunch of turbulence. Everybody strap your seatbelts.
Yeah.
Yeah, repeat what you said.
I'm just saying, do you think that he is able to provide a justification for PC without appealing back to PC? Do you think that's something they can do?
Okay, if you ask him why is this right, he tells you this is right because I could see it. Are you putting into question whether he could see it or not?
Look, if he has a justification, right, for it, I'm all ears if he has a justification for the belief that he's justified in the seeming of a TV, right? If he appeals to PC by just restating what PC is, that's not a justification. Now you could give an argument. You could give an argument for PC. You could give an argument for PC from something else. You could say, well, just given like how I'm understanding the terms, like given the modal semantics that I'm using, I'm like justified in believing in PC. And he doesn't have to he doesn't necessarily have to appeal back to PC in that instance in order to justify PC. So that wouldn't be an example of begging the question. But he didn't do that. What he did was appeal back to the same thing that I was questioning him on for 20 minutes.
Yeah, you just tell him why is this the case, and he basically appeals back to his site justifying why this thing is real. There's no issue with that.
Yeah, there is an issue, right? Because I don't understand. So if he says PC is true because I'm justified in my seemings, you don't agree that's just another way of saying that PC is true because PC is true?
No.
Oh, okay. So if someone says I'm justified in my seemings, you don't think that's the central thesis of phenomenal conservatism? Just a reiteration of it? No, I'm asking you, is that a reiteration of the position?
Not fully.
Not fully? Okay, but it's partly a reiteration, whatever that means, right?
Okay, if you concede it's partly a reiteration and then he further elaborates on it,
he
gave a
conceded.
justification.
That's what you're not understanding. He's conceded that it's begging the question. That's a reiteration of the claim. The claim is
saying that's a partial reiteration, and he further elaborates on it. He just justified it. That's what a justification.
He didn't justify it, right? I asked him, "How is PC true?" He says, "Because I'm justified in my seemings." Okay. That's like saying I'm justified in PC because I'm justified in PC, right? Appealing back to the central thesis isn't a justification.
Look, if you're saying, okay, you're saying is you're putting his sight into question, then he tells you, I'm justified in what I see.
Okay.
Okay. He responds with, my sight is justified. Do you disagree with that?
My side, yeah, of course I'm gonna contest that because I'm not a phenomenal conservative.
Okay, that's what I've been asking you. Are you putting into question whether he really sees something or not? Are you being skeptical of that?
I'm asking him for justification. Sure, yeah.
Okay, so if he's referring back to his sight, he's telling you all it's explaining is basically when we go down to it better, is just the reasoning as to why your sight would be correct.
No, because justification means that the proposition in question has raised as probability raising, right? So that's how I'm understanding justification, right? Okay, great. So how does seemings increase the probability of his belief that there's a TV?
And this is where you're confusing it. What we're presupposing here is that it's probably the case that there is a TV here. All you're saying is that
how is it more probable than not that there's a TV there? How is he justified?
Wow, you're the stupidest guy on this planet.
Yeah, okay. Insult me all you want. Just answer the question.
I'm gonna insult you and respond to that question.
Raise the probability.
Yeah, through the way sight works.
How does the way sight work increase the probability of it? Like that, you're just reasserting the thing that I'm questioning and saying, "Oh yeah, I'm justified in this." Well, how? Because the inferentialist is obviously going to point to many examples where you don't actually need to justify the seeming through appealing to.
Do you not understand how his position covers that? That's what he's trying
to.
It doesn't. He literally says, he says, "Do what I see, this is the case, but it's possible that I'm wrong."
Okay, but how does it make it more likely that he's correct, right? How does the seeming itself, forget about the inference, how he arrives to that site, how does the seeming itself increase the probability that he's correct, that there's a TV in front of him?
What do you mean forget about the inference, how he arrives to that site?
I'm asking you, how does the seeming itself increase the probability?
Okay. And here's what you're not understanding. If the way he arrives to the site comes to some type of conclusion whether or not he could see something or not, because there's no way you're gonna sit here and say sight doesn't exist, right?
This is just a deviation. I'm not even saying that sight doesn't exist, right? Just listen to what I'm saying.
Okay, then
you take justification to be probability raising, correct?
Okay.
Okay, great. And so what's required for the proposition to be justified is that it raises the probability of that proposition being true. How does the direct acquaintance of the TV make it more likely than not that he's justified over that belief?
All that he's saying that it's probably the case that there is a TV.
Yeah, he can repeat that's probably the case, right? But what theory of probability, how is he arriving at that probabilistic analysis? He doesn't even explain what that is.
Well, here it is. If you concede sight exists, right? If sight is what allows us to reach the conclusions to be able to see whether things are what they are, and all he's saying is that through the way of arriving to what I could see, this thing is this thing, but I could be wrong. How does that not cover your position?
That's compatible with the probability of PC being low, right? What's required is that when he's arriving at that belief that the probability of PC being correct is more true than not, what theory of probability is he appealing to in order to say anyone can say it's probably true that it's there? Okay, how? How do you explain the probability?
Okay, I'm saying a TV is a TV. What about that is
the law of identity?
Okay.
The law of identity? Yeah, okay. The TV is a TV. How does appealing to that law increase the probability that there's a TV there?
You can't be serious. Are you putting the law of identity into question?
I'm not putting anything into question. I'm just asking you how appealing to that alone raises the probability of that belief, right? The law of identity is something that's known a priori. That's known a priori. I don't know why you're appealing to something that's known a priori when we're talking about things that are justified a posteriori. How is he justified a posteriori?
You're like the most.
Okay, are you gonna
absurd,
answer?
Yeah, I'm gonna answer you. I'm gonna answer you. The most absurd person to talk to. It's the
okay,
way
great.
That's
not a fucking rebuttal.
You've already conceded that sight exists. You've said multiple times it's a direct acquaintance, so this is what it is. If he is saying that through his sight he's coming to the conclusion that this is what it is, and you're putting that into question, but his position already covers that it could possibly be incorrect, please point out a contradiction.
That's compatible. Wait, but that's compatible with. So this isn't a rebuttal. You know why it's not a rebuttal? Everything that you just said, everything that you just said, is consistent with the probability of PC being low, right? So it doesn't matter if sight exists. It doesn't even matter that you're appealing to your sight. What I'm saying is, what increases that probability that makes it likely that he actually is having that sight? You just repeating that it's there isn't like a justification. Holy shit! If I ask you how
that is a justification.
True, if I'm asking you how it's probably true, you can't just say he's just saying that it's probably true. How is it probably true? What theory of probability is he appealing to there? Because there's different methods.
You're not a real human, by the way.
Okay, great.
He's saying that it's probably true because he could see it.
Yeah, that's just a reiteration of the thing that I'm contesting. How is it more likely than not that he's justified in his seemings than the contrary?
Okay. When you see something, what do you do?
Can you answer the question, right? I don't know why you keep doing this
that's gonna answer your question.
If you see that shit, look, I'm asking you, do you think that T-Jump understands what he's saying when he says that the seeming itself makes it more probable than not that if he sees the TV in front of him that he's justified?
Yeah, if you don't see a TV, you don't know whether or not there's a TV. If you're blind, you don't know whether or not you'd see there is a TV there in the first place.
Seeming. I'm asking about how experience itself. I'm asking about the experience. Okay, great.
I'm directly responding to that. I'm directly responding. I'm directly responding to that. If you're blind,
If you're blind,
if you're blind, you don't know whether or not something is there or not, even if they tell you. Right.
Yeah,
if you could see,
how do you know?
You could establish more so whether this is really here or not. So it ups the probability and meets your criteria. So you just couldn't see it again.
No, you just said they would know that that's the case, which is again embedding justification in them. How are you justified? I could just ask the question, the further question. Given that world is empirically equivalent to the world where you're vastly deluded, how, by appealing to the empirical content of your seemings, are you justified in believing that there's a TV there?
Okay, so
how are you justified?
Okay, are you saying that we are not justified into anything in this world?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm asking you, if you hold to that position, how are you able to differentiate from the world where you have the seeming of the TV, but you're not deluded of it, the world where you're actually deluded of it? The empirical content
through a contradiction to my view.
Through contradiction
to my view.
The worlds are empirically equivalent. How do you know that you're in this world rather than the other?
Okay, through some type of evidence.
What's the evidence that you're going to... Wait, if you appeal to evidence, the evidence is going to be empirically equivalent.
Oh my god!
To the world
he just used oh my god!
Yeah, there's evidence that's empirically equivalent to the other world.
Appeal to evidence.
What?
Oh, I'm sorry. Appeal to evidence is so ridiculous. So you don't believe in evidence? You think evidence is just...
No, I didn't say it was ridiculous. I'm just saying you could appeal to evidence. You wouldn't be... You could appeal to evidence. The evidence, whatever you cite, is empirically equivalent to the world where you're deluded about that. So how are you justified?
Yeah, You're again presupposing that there's equivalent to a world. You're saying that it's possible. Yeah, you're presupposing it's equivalent. All that is just a possibility. In some possible world, yeah, I'm deluded. Yeah, in some possible world, yeah, I'm deluded, and I don't know what I'm talking about. But why is that probably the case?
No, look. In that skeptical example, you don't have anything to appeal to in that world in order to say that you're justified over belief. Because that evidence is equivalent to you being radically deluded.
You know how you just actually conceded?
No.
I'm gonna explain why. You want something that ups probability. So somebody actually being able to see. So if I'm deluded and I can't see or I can't tell whether or not something is something, if I could actually see, that ups probability of me telling whether or not this is there. So he just
how does it up the probability? Look, the probability is fixed. The probability there wouldn't be any probability raising. You're so like confused.
Okay,
there wouldn't be any probability raising if you're holding the world's empirically equivalent, right? In one world, there's the same probability. There's the same probability as the other world where you're radically deluded. So how does one world increase the probability over the other?
You're not responding to anything I'm saying. Do you know that?
Yes, I am. I am. You're appealing to the worlds.
If you think you are, we can just conclude.
You can't appeal to the worlds in question because the empirical content is equivalent, meaning that if you were to cite some probabilistic analysis, whatever that probabilistic analysis is, that's equivalent to the world where you're radically deluded.
If you're deluded, first of all, I already pointed out how that's just a probability. You have to point out why that's probably the case. And if that's the case, in that same example, if you're deluded, you can't actually see. What I'm saying is that
you have to, because you're saying that you're justified. You're saying that you have a probability raising.
If you're deluded, you can't actually see.
You're saying that you have a probability raising mechanism in order to say that you're justified. I'm saying that you wouldn't have that in both worlds, because in both worlds the empirical content is the same. So you can't appeal to your seemings because the seemings that you have in this world are equivalent to the world where you're radically deluded.
Okay. And what you're not understanding is that if you're deluded, you can't actually see. He's pointing out an example where somebody actually has sights. You're just trying to point out. You're pointing out this hypothetical where they have
deluded. No, you could see. You're just deluded that there's something there. That the thing that you claim is there is not actually there.
So you can't actually see.
No, you can. Oh my God, you could see, but you're not. You're wrong about what you're seeing, right? You're wrong that there's actually a TV there, right? You're wrong that there's actually a TV there. Okay, so how is it the case that you're justified if we're holding the world's fixed? The empirical content is the same. You can't appeal to your seemings because that just is the empirics.
Yeah, I've pointed out multiple times that you're just saying that this could possibly be the case. I want you to point out
I'm not even. Did I make a modal claim? No, I didn't. Right. So I don't know.
Then shut the fuck up. Like,
I didn't even make. I didn't
all
make.
All you're saying is that this world could be equivalent. You're basically asserting that this world is equivalent to a world where we are deluded.
Empirically speaking, yes. You can't appeal to anything else. What are you going to?
What's your basis for that?
Well, because there's nothing ruling out a posteriori that the probability of your seemings isn't the same as the world.
That's an argument that's an argument from ignorance.
That's not an argument from ignorance. What? So if someone says nothing rules out this thing a posteriori,
so
you don't think that's an inference? You don't think that that's an inference towards
you're saying
that you wouldn't have?
Okay. You're saying this is the case. I'm like, what's your basis for this being the case? I don't see any contradiction.
The basis is, and if you are understanding that I'm playing by your own game, right, is that there's no defeater. There's no defeater empirically.
That's not what my position is.
There's no empirical. Well, you're defending T-Jump in this debate, so let's just say that. That's not
his position either.
There's no defeater that you could possibly provide for why
that's not his position.
An empirical content isn't both in both worlds. I don't know why.
He's saying that his position covers that his site could possibly be wrong.
Yeah, that's it. Who cares if he says that, right? How does he know?
Then you're not talking to me. Then you're not arguing with me. You
how
retard.
Does he know that the empirical content of the worlds isn't equivalent to each other? He could say, "Yeah, I'm justified in believing in something because it just seems to be the case.
Okay.
That's just
They could possibly be wrong.
That's just phenomenal conservatism. Okay.
He's saying. Listen. He's saying, I see this. This is the case, but I could possibly be wrong. And you're saying he could possibly be wrong. You're not responding to him.
Okay,
So
that's just a straw man of the fucking. It's just a fucking idiotic point that you make. Look, if he says he's justified in believing, if he says he's justified in believing in his seemings, but the seemings that he's invoking don't rule out the both worlds where the empirical content is fixed, he wouldn't be justified. How on earth would he be justified if that's the same empirically as him being deluded?
Yeah, you're just asserting him being deluded baselessly.
What do you mean baselessly? I just told you the worlds are fixed, right? And the probability depends upon the empirical content, which you agreed with, by the way. And so how does phenomenal conservatism solve that?
You didn't even make a real argument. You just spat jargon at me.
But this is jargon. I'm asking you, how does PC rule out the scenario where the empirical content is fixed across the worlds? They're held.
All that's saying is that he could possibly be deluded.
That isn't what. Oh my God, that isn't what I'm just saying. Look, I'm saying is, how does PC rule out the scenario where, by appealing to his seemings, there isn't a world where he's not radically deluded?
Okay.
Great.
Hold on, I'm coughing. My fault. Yeah. All you're saying is that you're asserting that there is this world where he's possibly deluded, and that my scenario doesn't. My scenario doesn't cut out the possibility of him being deluded, and as I'm saying, that's perfectly okay because his thing is open to the possibility of him being wrong. But why is that probably the case?
It's not, oh my God, it's not a modal notion. How does it cut out the probability that he wouldn't have justification a posteriori? It's the probability that matters, not the possibility. Yeah, global skepticism. Global skepticism is possible. We agree on that. Okay, correct. How does that?
Why is it probable?
How does that rule out the probability of the world being empirically the same?
You'd have to prove why global skepticism is probable.
No. This is the problem.
Yes, you do.
No. This is called the problem of the criterion. By just appealing to the same standard, you're either going to justify, the Munchausen trilemma as well. You're either going to justify the fucking standard by some epistemic circular means, or you're just going to give like a foundationalism. You just have like an arbitrary belief in PC, right? Which is like the case of foundationalists. Or
what's the justification for the law of identity?
Or infinitism, right?
What's the justification for the law of identity?
How is that even relevant to what I'm just saying? I'm saying his position falls victim to the Munchausen trilemma. It appears that given the Munchausen trilemma, he wouldn't have justification against the position that I'm claiming, right? So do you disagree that the Munchausen trilemma is sort of like a problem in epistemology?
I think you're just pointing out something that could be it's like just a universal issue, but what I'm saying is that what his position is covering, I'm going to reaffirm it again. If you repeat yourself, we could just conclude here and just end of the day we disagree. Okay. His position covers everything that you're trying to point out. I'm saying that because you're just asserting that there is this world. You literally are asserting a possible world where we're deluded and saying it's equivalent to our world, so we couldn't point out whether or not we are deluded or not, which is ridiculous. Which I'm pointing out for you. I'm pointing out to you what I'm trying to point out to you. Why would it be the case that we're all deluded, and you can't really give me an answer to that? And then, at the end of the day, I'm saying that our site is justificatory to the way that it works, and us being able to say, you want a probability increasing issue, or you want something that's probability increasing. And I pointed out, if somebody is deluded or blind or has problems in their sites that impales their site, they're not actually seeing. If you could actually see, that would increase the probability of what is there or not. I've already told you that multiple times.
Okay, that was just incoherent. But look, I'm not asserting shit. You just conceded that global skepticism is possible. That there's a possible world where global skepticism is the case. So I didn't
It's super
assert
highly
that.
unlikely, so I don't have to entertain it. You've even been saying
You just like literally said I asserted it. No, you just agreed that that's a possible world. There's no contradiction in a world where global skepticism is the case, but that's not really the problem. You haven't answered this. How does appealing to PC, which is just, PC is just another version of foundationalism, for example.
I'm asking you this: are we having this conversation?
Wait, hold on. I'll let you get to it. How does him appealing to PC solve this issue where the worlds are empirically equivalent? Because that's the problem for any view in epistemology. And if you knew anything about epistemology, you would know that all views suffer from this.
Okay, that's why I said it was. Well, I told you earlier it's a universal issue, but in here I'll reaffirm this, and you're pointing this out. How do you know that we're having this call right now?
How do I know? Yeah, I could just appeal to an inference, right? But that's not even relevant.
Wait. What's the inference you're appealing to? What's the inference you're appealing to?
I'm saying, how does the PC?
Don't dodge the question. What's the inference? Okay, how are you? What's the inference? Where are you drawing this inference from?
You're just like sort of saying, well,
why are you running from the question? What is the inference you're drawing?
Yeah, I'm just saying you're just trying to imply that there's an intuition.
Answer.
Yeah,
where are you drawing an inference from?
Yeah, so I'm gonna say that a phone, for example, a phone is the type of device, right? I have some sort of, let's say, inference, right, drawn from the way I'm perceiving it, that I'm talking to you right now, and I don't need to appeal to anything else, right? But the PC.
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry. I actually didn't hear you. Can you repeat that? Repeat that. I didn't hear you. You like muffled out for a second.
Wait, can you hear me?
Yeah. Now, can you repeat yourself? I can't wait here forever. I gotta go to bed soon, but yeah, if he's just not coming back, we'll go to bed. I gotta work later, so I'm just I'll catch you later. Okay. You heard Wolski? Just let him know.
Okay.
Bro, what the fuck?
Point out